This is Hebrew Hits presented by jtriberadio.com. I'm your host, Malya, and I sit down with people who live by the motto, it's what you do with what you have that makes a difference. Welcome to the 33rd episode of Hebrew Hits. I'm your host, Malya, and today I have the pleasure of sitting down with a very special guest. I'm so excited that he's here with me on the show. Before we get to the show, I want to kindly ask if you can please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Hebrew Hits Radio, and go follow us on Instagram at Hebrew_Hits. Please subscribe on all the streaming apps to Hebrew Hits on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. Yeah, let's see how fast you can say all those. Well, let's get straight to the show. I have got Asher Laub on the show with me today. How you doing?
Oh, I'm great. Couldn't be better. You said that all so quickly without stuttering. That's incredible.
Well, it's my 33rd episode that I've had to say all that. So, you know, you try saying it. Well, Asher, it's so amazing how you're finally on the show. I met you a couple months ago, actually at a wedding, and then we were working together. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta get this guy on the show. So thank you so much for being here. When I first think of a violin, I just want to start off with a violin because I have never seen an electric violin until I have met you, and it's so surprising because when I think of a violin, I literally think of a small brown instrument, and then I see you, and you're the violin guy. And I'm like, what are you holding? And you're like, it's this clear electric violin. It even glows. So have you always known about this violin? And has this always been your dream violin?
So the short is, I broke up a little bit, so it was hard for me to hear. But I think what you're asking about is, have I always known about the electric violin? So I haven't. My entire life, I would say the majority of my life, I have not. And because I was brought up in a very kind of black and white classical music type background, learned through the Suzuki methods, and was played with orchestras. Didn't know anything about how violin is really can be used as a contemporary instrument, and is very much so. And I think that's what the electric violin, which I discovered, I don't know, really late, like my 20s, that it fits very well. With modern music, electronic music, which is what I produce, and pop music and all sorts of fun stuff that people think maybe it isn't so relevant anymore because they just associate that with orchestras, but that's not so much the case. So that's what the electric violin really represents to me, contemporary music. And
do you get to choose any specific color that it glows, or does it just glow blue or green?
Oh, the LED. So that's an LED violin. Not all of them light up like that, but I do like 6 different colors to make it cute. People like the light up. I try to match it with the bow lights, so people are like, oh, check that out.
It definitely adds. And who gave you your first violin? And if you can share a story, if you remember, what your first experience was actually playing the violin.
So strangely enough, I remember it very clearly. I remember my childhood super duper clearly, and the many lessons that I took in the Suzuki method like it was yesterday. And it could be because I've constantly reminded myself as I've grown up what those moments were like. I guess because I'm a sentimental kind of person, and I feel like I'll get into that later, but the music lessons were not that much fun. And I don't think I really chose the instrument, even though my mom claims that I did. There was a lot of strictness involved, and I had to, stick to strict memorization of the music and moving from one level to the next. And I would say it was probably a lot of pressure, and more pressure than a 2-year-old, 3-year-old should have to deal with. It wasn't abusive, but it was a little intense. And not to get too off topic, when my mom's like, you sure you want to make music a career? Like years later when I moved to New York, I'm like, you started me at the age of 2. What do you think? Like, is that a serious question? You're surprised that music is now my career? She wanted me to go off to medicine, and I got those degrees. But I remember the the lessons very, very clearly. And I went through, I don't know, 10 different teachers. And I have to say, I had only one very good teacher. That was Thomas Halpin. He was a contemporary of Ivan Galamian.
Okay.
By the way, if I keep talking and you want to say something, just say shut up. I have something to say. I have a question. Because I could just talk forever here. But he was an amazing teacher, and that came in high school. I kind of wish he taught me when I was that, much younger, because those were hard years, playing etudes and boring scales. And yeah,
it's so interesting though that your first like memory with the violin was intense, because like now you love it. So it's interesting that your first memory was intense. And it's also interesting that you basically gave yourself the violin. You weren't like handed it. You chose it, basically. That's what your mom says, at least.
Well, my mom claims that I chose it. I disagree. I didn't answer your initial question, which is who gave me my initial violin.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
And that the answer to that is my Aunt Sheila, who's in the Boston Symphony. And speaking of intense people, I love her, but she's obviously she's a hard worker, and she made it to the top in classical music industry. And I'm fortunate that she gave me the violin, and I got to play for her throughout the years. So
that's where you get it from. That's where you get it. That's where you get it from. Then I was wondering, because who gives a 2-year-old a violin? Usually it's the drums, a little piano, and then there's like a little 2-year-old playing the violin, figuring how to like play it with the bow and everything. But now it's your aunt that was into it. Very into violin.
The first real violin, but the first violin that I played was a margarine box, literally a margarine box. You cut out the middle because it's so small. Like the actual physical violins weren't small enough for my fingers, so they attached rubber bands around the margarine box, and they served as strings. So they're like four rubber bands, and you kind of like got the positioning and got the fingering and kind of plucked each string, and that's how it really started. Like when I was still in diapers.
Were your parents also very into music?
They were both they both dabbled in music for a number of years. I wouldn't say that they were professionals, but my dad plays the violin, I would say fiddle, and my mom plays the guitar, ukulele.
Okay. Oh wow.
So yeah.
So then they were. So that's why they would hand it to you.
Sheila's the biggest inspiration there. What?
So good for her. If she didn't hand it to you at 2 years old, who knows what you'd be playing now?
Probably drums or guitar, like every other normal person. It's like,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, so now I see that you also came to play in the Buffalo Philharmonic. So how did that come to be? That's like really prestigious to play in the Philharmonic.
Yeah, but that was just one. That was one show. Like I wasn't like I wasn't like brought in to be like a regular, act.
So how did you get there on that one show though? Was it your aunt as well?
Take credit for being like some big virtuoso at 13. But you got to be pretty darn good to like have that opportunity. So I was fortunate enough to be selected among a group of people in the NISMA auditions, or the Greater Buffalo Orchestra upstate auditions among classical musicians, to be able to perform with them at a live concert, which was pretty intense, pretty cool, and never forget it. We'll never forget it.
How was that? You said you were 13, right? When you played there?
Yeah, 13, pretty sure.
So what were you feeling when you were on that stage? Were you feeling nervous, or were you just like, I'm on here and I'm going to have fun and do the best that I can?
Honestly, no more nervous than I was auditioning for like, not the manager of NISMA, New York State auditions, basically. Those were the guys that made me nervous, because like they pay close attention to every single note that you play, and then they dock you for any note that's slightly flat or slightly sharp, and it's like, oh God. But I don't know. There's enough reverb, enough presence in the hall, and enough going on that I didn't feel as nervous. I mean, I had played a lot of concerts, even by age 13, because I was in orchestras my whole life, literally doing concerts like weekly, monthly, in front of pretty large audiences, not just as a concert master, but just as a musician in the audience. As a violinist in the audience. That didn't make any sense. As a violinist in the first and second violin section. That's what I meant.
With people in the audience, you could say.
And then with bands later on in high school. Yeah.
Right. So I guess the Philharmonic, there were a lot of people also on the stage with you. So it's not like you were by yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, like I know that you're a violin and you're a musician. Has there been any other career though that you either tried to go for or you actually did pursue?
You're a good interviewer.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say yes. I was a teacher for 4 years. Or you're saying other professions that led me to this, or that I just pursued in general?
Other professions that you pursued in life, like your story. Well, I mean, I don't think your story was that you got your violin at 2 and now here you are. I think that there were other things that you possibly did in between.
Right. So I was working my way through school. I was getting 3 other degrees in the sciences. So I became a teacher for 4 years of the DOE, the New York City Department of Education. Those of you who aren't familiar. And then I went off, got a nursing degree. That was really important to me. And that actually happened after my 4th year of teaching, where I started to have health problems, like serious health problems. It wasn't the first time I experienced that, but it really started to get to the point where I just wanted to understand my body and what was going wrong with my my physical strength, and why I was pretty much losing my grip on my career in violin, which had started in 2001 professionally, when I moved to New York. Um, so yeah, nursing was the route that I took. And after I taught, and I learned a heck of a lot more about the medical issues that I was dealing with. In a nutshell, adrenal insufficiency, scariest period of my life. I ended up using a bedpan. I ended up bedridden and pretty much a vegetable for like, I don't know, 6 months at least. And I was in a wheelchair. It was just the worst. This is very therapeutic for me to talk about it. And I've talked about it many times, like for my fans, and I try to share it as much as possible, just because I think it helps me come to understand what happens and what happened to me. And so yeah, having
so
said
how
that,
did what happened? You were healthy one day and then you just started feeling ill one day. Like, walk us through
so I was gonna
the
get
process.
to that. I'm gonna have to say it started most notably in high school, when I had trouble lifting the violin, which is you're getting a sustained injury when you're holding the instrument in your hand over a period of maybe, whatever. If you're playing a song, it's 10 minutes long. Playing a concerto, I'm like looking around me, I'm noticing that nobody else is having an issue holding up the violin except for me, and I'm like straining my back, and I sort of ignored it, and it didn't seem like I was getting any good advice from even physical therapists or my violin teacher, Tom Halpin, like I mentioned. So I just ignored it, and it was years later that it really came to bite me in the behind, so to speak. And I just couldn't. I needed to get to the bottom of what the issue was, because literally doctors weren't telling me what was going on. Like, they were just saying, like, here's some steroids, like here's this, and I ended up on Cortef, which was just like infuriating, because I could have permanently ended up on it, and I was literally cracking the textbooks, trying to become my own doctor. And that's what I essentially did. And that's why I went to nursing school. I went there for other reasons.
Yeah.
But in the end, you see I'm standing here, I'm healthy. Occasionally I have, some back problems because the instrument is straining, but I am stronger and healthier than I've ever been before.
So what the doctors couldn't do for you, and the doctors couldn't tell you what was wrong, you were trying to find out your own answers.
Yeah, they weren't giving me any straight, clear answers. They were just like writing out.
Did they not know? Did they not know?
Honestly didn't know. I don't think they're mean spirited. I just think they didn't know. I went to alternative modalities of treatment. I went to, just learning about endocrinology and pathophysiology, taking all these courses of biochemistry, just trying to understand what is it that's happening. And I learned that a lot of it related to nutrition. I don't want to get into controversial medicine or anything like that, but let's just say I pretty much ran the gamut. I tested everything out. I tried everything, went to every type of doctor you can imagine, alternative, homeopathic, naturopathic, mainstream. And I just had to form my own understanding.
So how did you either get through that, and physically, how was it possible that you were able to get out of bed, and how long did it actually last that you couldn't move?
So my father came to help me for I feel like it was like a month. this wasn't that long ago. It was like 5 years ago,
Wow.
5 years ago. He came me for a month, and it was just that was the worst feeling, being helpless and depending on other people, and that totally changed my mindset. And my wife had to help me, and my brother came because he was in Brooklyn. He came to help me while I was like walking around like this, with crutches. Um, Everybody was helping me. I was just depending on everybody. It was terrible. It was just the worst period of my life. I think that I made that clear.
Do you feel
Really
like
wish I
that
told
actually
everybody.
made you though? Because sometimes when you're helpless and you need to rely on your family and your friends for full support, you really find out who you really are and what you really could handle.
I did learn that whatever doesn't break you, whatever doesn't kill you, makes you stronger.
Mhm.
Makes you want to sing the song.
Sing it.
It was an episode of my life that definitely helped 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 me grow and mature and appreciate life and reevaluate what it is that I'm doing in life and what I'm
Mhm.
pursuing in a major way. And I wish that it didn't take that experience for me to come to the conclusions that I've come to, but it did. And if I think that if it hadn't, that didn't happen to me, I might have been the same immature, you know, person. And I might have not been as well off as I am now. Um,
So you were
having had
still
that
doing
experience.
nursing as a career then, right? It wasn't, you were not doing
Yeah.
full-time violinist.
Ironically, I was doing nursing, and I was gigging on occasion. I really scaled back because
Hmm.
I just couldn't hold the instrument. Um, but when I got better, um, my eye was on the prize, and I graduated, and then I was like, I'm going into music. Like, I don't care
Hmm.
that money was spent, time was spent. It's knowledge. I'm putting it in my back pocket. I'm going to use it, and I'm going to pursue. Life's too short. That's the
Hmm.
conclusion I came to. Life is too short to be concerned about what other people say, what other people think. Um, I'm going to do what I believe in, what makes me happy, what I enjoy, and that's the name of my game right now.
I love that you're saying that because the entire point of this show, the mantra of this show is it's what you do with what you have that makes a difference. You took the cards that you were dealt with, this thing that you were going through, and you couldn't move and you were sick, and you didn't let it, it didn't, you, I mean, it affected you hugely. You changed your career, but you didn't let it push you down. You said, okay, I don't love nursing. I don't love what I was doing in the past. My entire dream is being a violin, and you took it and you went with it. And that is the entire point of my show, is showing how people go through certain things in their life, but they come out the other end because they use those things that they've been through.
Yeah, it was more than things like I actually do enjoy. I did enjoy nursing, and I do enjoy, the knowledge base, and it's
Mhm.
very important what nurses do. Um, but the passion that I have in music and the experiences that I have, even like at weddings, at concerts, just like the experience of being around happy people who are just enjoying life. It, how do you beat that?
Right,
How do you beat that?
right. And I'm happy
Yeah.
that you decided to do violinist as a full time, because I got to meet you at the wedding.
Oh, it's an honor, Malya. We had a good time that wedding.
Yeah, all that was worth it. So I get to meet you. I just want to tell our listeners, if you do not know Asher Laub, make sure to go follow him. He is not only super talented, he is the sweetest and most genuine guy. I meet a lot of people, okay? I do interviews all the time. I'm constantly connecting with people. And Asher, you have been one of the people that I keep telling my family and friends, this guy is so genuine. After I came home from that wedding that we met at, I told my mother, I said, this guy, there's something very special about him. He's so
Oh,
honest. You're just so honest, and you're there for people. Like, you're just a very good person. And I could see it. It comes through, and you're very real. So I appreciate that.
that's super nice of you. Now you're putting
Well,
me under
no,
all this pressure. Now no, I really appreciate that. That's really sweet of you to say.
of course.
And I feel the
Well, let's
same.
get, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, well, I have a little tiny violin. I should probably go get it. This big, my brother gave me. I never played it because I don't think it's playable. It's just like for show, I guess, on my counter, like
Let's
on my
do it.
shelf.
Let's do
But
it.
I'll show it to you at the end of the show. I'll bring it on. I'll go get it. Yeah, well, because I do want to ask you this question. You have performed for many, many, many people. Who has been one person that you were super excited to interview, but at the same time most nervous? So you were so excited, but this was like you were so nervous to actually perform in front of them. And why?
So there have been quite a few. Not, I'm thinking of like 20 famous people off the top of my head. I'm gonna have to say, and not for any good reason, I'm gonna have to say Dominic Hasek, the goalie, Buffalo Sabres. I don't even know how many of you guys even remember him. He was like an award-winning goalie. It was like a big highlight for me when I was younger. And then Ivana Trump, and not because she's like, like a musician, but mostly because she just seemed kind of like upset at the event that I was playing at. So I was like, am I doing something wrong here? I think that was just her personality. At the time, like, I think she's honestly upset that she's not the first lady and could have been,
Wow.
So that's just my personal opinion. It was a pretty upscale event. And I was so like, I don't know, I was feeling a little out of sorts there. I was very excited to meet her and see her, but you kind of expect to have a smile, but I didn't really notice that.
She didn't have any smile.
She didn't seem to be too happy. I'm not saying she isn't a happy person, but maybe like,
oh my gosh,
it was just like, maybe it was the weather. Who knows?
How did you get to perform for her? That's very cool.
Let me try to remember that was by the MoMA. Who the heck was it? It was like a corporate type of event. Bunch of movers and shakers were all there, and it was it was just, I guess it was just like one of those ritzy events. You kind of you want everything to run perfectly. You get referrals and everything.
Yeah.
And so there's that.
When are you going to get to perform at the White House in front of actually President Donald Trump? You would stop everything for that, right? You would stop everything for that, right?
My wife would stop would tell me if I could stop everything for that. What's his name? I'm trying to remember the name of that. Not Griffin.
You played for George Bush, no?
No, but I was thinking of a musical celebrity, Kygo. You know Kygo?
Of course.
Yeah. So I was invited to do a concert for Kygo, and it fell on Rosh Hashanah, and my wife was like, "Nope," and I was like, "Okay." But I was like, why did it have to be on Rosh Hashanah? Like maybe another opportunity, but that didn't come through. It was a huge festival, and oh well.
Which performance would you say has been your most iconic performance?
I guess I skipped the question there. I'm gonna have to say Madison Square Garden and or Carnegie Hall. Those were two of the more iconic performances for me. More like the hall than the actual concert that made me feel like I can't mess up.
Right. Well, Carnegie Hall
are paying attention to every note. And that made me a little nervous. When people are super respectful and super like, they present themselves well, and they really they take the whole event really seriously, and you feel like it feels very different than when you're at a festival where everybody's just like drunk and like hanging out, having a good time. They just want to hear some good music.
And you did that by yourself, or you were with a band when you performed there?
That was me. That was featuring me. And the Madison Square Garden thing was pretty much featuring me. And Matisyahu was up at the Madison Square concert. That was pretty cool, actually. That was a cool opportunity. That was right back when he was going on the Tonight Show, and he invited me actually to play violin for him. And then his managers are like, no, immediately after, they're like, no, we don't have the money. I'm like, thanks.
Oh my gosh.
Could have gone on tour with the guy. Yeah.
That would have been really, really, really cool.
Yeah. But
and whatever, you just really started performing within the past 6 years, as you said, like when you stopped nursing and you're like, I'm doing violin, like that's what I'm really focusing on. You started focusing about 6 years ago?
Full time, but I started in 2001. I immediately started playing club dates, weddings, concerts, with a lot of orchestras.
But full time, 6 years.
Oh, I forgot the biggest performance of my life, which was PBS twice, actually.
Wow.
So that was with one was this past year, with Jessica Lynn, country pop starlet Jessica, and we actually have we go way back. That was at the I should know more about these concerts. I'm just like, you're throwing these questions at me. I wasn't even thinking like what are the details of like the location. I don't know if anybody cares, but that's still running actually nationwide.
Oh wow.
So that she just featured me a couple songs on her special, and the other one was like a new age performance where I was featured a bunch of solos at. That was in White Plains. I'll remember the venue. Peekskill up in Peekskill,
Okay.
gorgeous area, and it was one of their concert halls. So that was very, very memorable, and it was an honor to be a part of those. And I look forward to more opportunities like that.
Yeah, well, I see that you were actually featured in the headlines of CNN, WABC, NBC, and the New York Post, and many, many more. Yeah. How are you feeling? Like, were you super excited? Were you shocked? Were you asked to be on the headline? Did you know they were writing about you?
Yeah, so I'm not letting any of this stuff get to my head because it's not. It's just PR media stuff. Like, so some of them I've actually like the New York Post article was a woman who reached out to me, which is a total honor. She wanted to write about me and my story and how I was basically, how I got into music and my career and the original music that I produced and that kind of stuff. CNN, I don't even remember what the article was, but yeah, I was featured on a bunch of these articles just because I have a pretty unique career as a dancing violinist, and there aren't too many people are doing that. And I had what to tell, and I had an interesting story that related to health and hope and having a meaningful life with respect to music. And so that's all I can say. For me, what's more exciting than CNN is Billboard, because that's my audience. That's my audience of people they're not just people like in finance. Not that I don't completely value those people, but they're people who are maybe in finance who genuinely are obsessed with music, who really want to hear your music as opposed to like, okay, they're interested in fame as opposed to like original compositions.
But they found you, yeah? You didn't have to reach out to them. They found you and they saw what you were doing. And they're like, this guy. A couple of them
found me. And then, yeah, pretty lucky.
Yeah, you are pretty lucky. Well, talking about you being a dancing violinist, which is so cool. I love your music videos. I love I could see all the effects, and especially the one you just posted on Instagram. There's like a moon, you're like in the sky and there's like a moon following you. So cool. So awesome. Who is actually the mastermind behind creating your music videos? Very original ideas.
So I'm a little bit of a micromanager with respect to that. But I've had a couple of producers work with me. I am terrible with names, but Nico worked on my last project. I've had a couple of other production companies that have offered to collaborate with me in releasing these videos. One of the videos was Shen Li and like Dances of Vice.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw it, was Can't Stop the Feeling with my breakdancers. It was like a dueling breakdancer concert.
Yeah.
That was super cool. Nickelodeon and MTV. It was like a lot of PR stuff going on with that performance. That was the event planning production company that was responsible for that video, or at least for that concert. And I brought in a videographer that wanted to work with me, that was willing to clip up the stuff and edit it, so forth.
Well, keep doing what you're doing, because your music video, I say keep doing what you're doing, because your music videos are seriously awesome. They're just original. You don't find that anywhere else.
That's super nice of you. I really appreciate that. A lot of these videos, they're higher budget. The ones that are really creative that I really want to do regularly on a monthly basis. And I'm trying to work on ways to raise funds so that even during the period of COVID, I have support for these interesting and unique, like music videos. So like I have a Patreon page. I'm looking to kind of get out there to the public, and hopefully I'll get some sponsors soon enough.
So yeah, well, hopefully I'm trying to do the same thing with my show. that's why I really hope that, you know, people go follow and support you and support everybody in the artist field. Now, let me ask you this. Can you share one of your funniest moments that you can remember that has happened either on stage or during your musical career?
So one thing that comes to mind is this is actually ridiculous. I played at a look, I've done 2,000 events. I'm trying to like sift through, find the funniest one. Okay, so the funniest, I would say one of the funnier stranger events that I experiences that I had gig wise was at a ski lodge where I had to go up a ski lift, and my assistant and I were scared out of our minds because we had our equipment, very expensive equipment, that if it fell, it would have fallen, I don't know, many hundreds of feet. Of course, if we fell, like our equipment would have broken, but if we fell, we just would have died. And it was freezing, and we weren't wearing jackets because we were moving from one location to the next. And we weren't thinking, I was thinking it was going to be indoors, but once we were on the ski lift, it was like 30 minutes to the top. And
they couldn't put you on a
we
gondola?
forgot to bring the lift down to like the buckle. It's not, they don't have a buckle, like it's like a metal bar. You bring it down. It didn't occur to us that it was all the way up there. We're supposed to bring it down, and it's not like I haven't ever been on a ski lift. I just wasn't thinking. I was just scared out of my mind. So that was ridiculous. I can't say that was funny, but it was ridiculous. And
they couldn't put you on it.
I laughed like a week later.
They couldn't put you on an enclosed gondola. I've been to Vail, Colorado, and when you go on the ski lift, it's like, actually there's a ski lift and then there's a gondola. You go in and it's enclosed. You go up the mountain. You can put a wheelchair, a carriage. They didn't have that for you?
That would have been a good idea, right?
Yeah.
Somebody didn't plan very well.
So you literally went on the ski lift with your violin. Crazy.
Well, yeah, and it was more than my violin. It was my equipment, my sound equipment, and I couldn't have recovered it if it fell. But also, you get onto the ski lift. The ski lift is constantly rotating. It doesn't stop for you. So each chair is moving, and it's moving in rotation, and you have to kind of. So we're like trying to get on the first chair. Oh no, we don't have enough time because we have to bring 2 or 3 pieces of equipment with us each. So you really got to get ahead of it. You have to get ahead of it.
How did you jump off with it? How did you also have to jump off? It doesn't just stop. How did you jump off with your equipment? That's crazy.
Very sloppily.
Whoever planned that's not smart. Thank God, but next time you better get on the gondola. It's an enclosed gondola. You just walk on. It's it's easy. You just walk on. It's a lift.
Yeah. I don't know if it existed at this lodge, but I'll make sure to ask for that next time.
That is so crazy.
Again.
That is a crazy, crazy story. Do you play any other instruments besides for the violin?
I do. So I play the viola and the drums. I played that professionally for a few years, and the piano. And that's actually how I do some of my orchestrations. What else? Percussion. I mean, that's easy once you play the drums. Bass, pretty decent. Mandolin, pretty solid because that's very similar fingering to the violin.
You play a lot of stuff.
What?
You play a lot of stuff, and at the same time, you're also a DJ, which is super cool.
Yeah, I love that. I love live mixing and remixing and producing music. So, and on that topic, well, I'll leave the questions to you, but I do enjoy DJing. As you already know, you get a test to your listeners.
My brother gave this to me a few years back.
Oh, that's so cute.
It's like the size of my face.
Yeah.
Do you see? This is what I picture a violin, a brown violin, and you have a really cool clear one.
Is that what's it made of?
It's made of, I think, plastic.
Can you pluck it?
Do I what?
Can you pluck it? Pluck the strings?
Well, let me show you what I could do with it. There's these buttons in the back, like that I could turn on, and then it plays as batteries. So I think it's a playable violin. I don't think I could actually play it, but it's like a violin that my brother's like, oh, you always want to play the violin. I'm getting you this violin. So this is what he gave me, but it's really small and cute.
It's super cute.
But it's, if you see, the strings are like pieces of metal.
Ah.
I don't know what they're supposed to be.
Well, they probably need to be tightened.
Yeah, probably, because they feel pretty loose.
Moved.
Oh, you tighten it like this.
Yeah.
Right. And then maybe I could actually play. Who knows? But this is how it looks. You have your violin on hand to show the difference? Or no?
What's that?
You have your violin on hand to show the difference or no?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Give me a second.
I'm duetting with Asher Laub right now on the show on Hebrew Hits. Do you feel like you would want to ever give classes in violin to either students or your children?
So whether I want to teach violin?
Yeah.
So I've been asked many times, and maybe I'll regret that I haven't ever said yes. But so the short answer is, I don't know. Right now, the answer is no, possibly. But I just feel like I left education, so that I could, eventually go into music, and I'm trying to stick to the musical end of things, performance end of things, and recording original music for the fans and so forth. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. But I may end up having to, if COVID keeps like coming and going. And
right, I hear.
So far, it seems like there's still opportunities for live musicians, even though the world's kind of crashed.
For sure. Well, let me ask you this. I know that you did start a business called Fiddler's Dream Music. What exactly is that? And first of all, Instagram page looks amazing. I'm loving all the pictures of proposals, weddings, everything. It looks beautiful. So what exactly is it? And what are your aspirations for Fiddler's Dream Music?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for asking. So actually launched the new website, fiddlersdreammusic.com, yesterday, and it's pretty much ready to visit. Very excited.
Yay!
Yeah. So what it was before, so Fiddler's Dream has been around for years, and thank you. And it's evolved from Asher Laub Music, which we've done many pretty large scale events since 2004, I'm going to say. But it's really evolved into like a full-time project. So Fiddler's Dream Music is the corporate entertainment and live wedding event musical service. So it's the music and entertainment group. And that's one hat that I wear. And the other hat that I wear is me, Asher Laub, which is the artist. So I finally got to the point where it's like Fiddler's Dream and Asher Laub were merged for way too long. And clients and just people are confused, and they don't understand that they just needed things to be separate. So I finally separated it. In terms of the website, the social media pages have always been separate. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube channels, all this video footage have been very clearly distinguished. But the website, I think, takes it to the next level. And now it's like, okay, guys, it's not about me as much as it is about the group, the entertainment group, the wedding orchestra, the DJ, the wedding DJ. And that is a different mindset, because people, I would say brides in particular, they have trouble wrapping their heads around like, okay, an artist, I'm going to hire an artist who plays concerts, who releases albums for my wedding. Like, do they have the knowledge base and the skills and they're nervous. So this is sort of leveling it up and showing people that I'm very much serious and very excited about this new venture. That was the
I love that
answer to your question.
What do you say?
That was the long-winded answer to your question.
No, I love it, because it's definitely a very cool thing that you're doing, that you're able to bring joy to people's weddings. And now you made a website people could actually go and see. What is the website called that people could actually go check it out?
Sure. Fiddlersdreammusic.com. It's way too long of a name, but Fiddlers, Fiddlers, dream, like dream, music, all one word, .com.
before we go, I got to ask you this. What are your goals for this year, especially with COVID being around and you just dropping this new website page? What are your goals?
So I have a lot of goals, and I'm going to have to say, I would say my primary goal is to keep busy in terms of the live entertainment end of things, because that's really what I love. I love connecting with people through music. And my goals are also to finish the Neon Dreams album. Finally, we're up to 7 songs now.
Wow.
So maybe 3 more songs of the album will be done. The Violin Covers album is finished, and I'm already shipping it out. I'll be shipping out that album along with the EP Neon Dreams, basically the first phase of the Neon Dreams album, to signed album to folks that are actually just asking me on social media. So people are sending me DMs and messages, and people are asking for the actual physical copies, physical CD. So that's what I'm working on right now. And I want to finish the album, and I want to do weddings and corporate events, and pretty much work on those 2 elements.
Wow. Asher, thank you so much for being here. If people want to follow you on social media, how do they get in contact with you? How do they find you?
So there are so many ways. I'm going to have to say asherlaub.com, contact page, fearlessdreammusic.com, contact page. It's no excuses not to be able to get in touch with me. And then you can try to DM me on Instagram. Sometimes those messages get lost. Facebook, the messages sometimes get lost. Leave a comment in one of my posts, may get lost, but those are other ways of reaching out to me. And
do you have LinkedIn? I know I asked you this before. Do you have LinkedIn?
Yeah, I do have LinkedIn.
I tried tagging you on a post and I couldn't find you. When I first met you, I did like those pictures and I posted stuff about the wedding, and I was like, I don't see you.
Yeah, I changed the name. I'm gonna have to change to A David Laub, but I'm gonna have to. I guess I could change it back to Asher Laub. I'm having LinkedIn issues.
Let me help you. I'm a pro at LinkedIn. I'll help you with LinkedIn.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'll
for sure.
Yeah, I'll log in. I don't ever log in, but I'll log in and I'll check it out.
Well, Asher, thank you so much for being here. This is the 33rd episode. Again, I'm your host, Malya. If you liked what you just heard, please leave us a follow on Instagram. That is Hebrew_hits. Go follow Hebrew Hits Radio on YouTube and leave us a rating on all your favorite streaming apps. That's Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and so much more. Asher, again, thank you so much for being here. And people, we'll be back next time, same place.